Uh, Let me start with the demo. What exactly the Dynamics 365 is all about. So before getting into Dynamics 365, so I'll try to make you understand what do you mean by ERP here. Uh, in general, first, getting into ERP, I just wanted to understand. Whenever you get into any business or whenever you see any business, uh, they would be having any software to record their transactions. Or let's say, for example, if you're taking a company called Reliance, so Reliance will be having multiple departments. They will be having finance department, accounts department, and then HR, sales, marketing. Like this, every company will be having multiple departments, right? So in order to maintain any details with regards to any of those departments, they should have a software. So in that case, for example, in market there are a lot of companies like SAP, or you might have heard Tally also. That is used by, that is not an ERP, but still that is also what do you mean by ERP is here is like enterprise resource planning. That means whenever any, so for example in any organization, there will be, as I mentioned, there will be a lot of departments, right? To cater the needs of for each and every department, I mean, they need some tool or anything. Let's say for recording any accounting transactions, instead of books, they need one software. Even for sales and marketing also, to record their details, or I mean, to update any details with regards to their customers, vendors, and for HRs also to maintain records of all the employees and their salaries, even for calculation, everything they need one software. So in that case, for example, SAP and Oracle are the, even these are well-known ERPs. You might have heard about these names already. Along with this, there are a lot of other softwares which are specialized in each and in a separate module. Let's say, for example, for accounting related, SAP, Tally, these are very famous. But Tally is mostly used in domestic companies, or any, I mean, like a small size or any mid-size organizations. SAP, Oracle, these are well known, and since they're in the market leaders, they are there in the industry since a while. And most of the big companies, they will be using these softwares. They have a lot of modules. I mean, any module or any topic that is covered under accounts, finance, everything, they have, they can customize as well. These Oracle, SAP, or anything, they can prepare customized reports or anything. In the similarly, even uh, along with the SAP Oracle, there is one more software, that is Microsoft Dynamics. So this Microsoft Dynamics software is owned by the Microsoft itself. So it is their internal software. So yeah, earlier they had a world old versions like AX 2012, uh, AX12, and there are a few other versions are there. Like, so they have upgraded. Even though you might have not heard about this AX12 or anything, or any of these old softwares, what they did is, like, there are a few softwares available in the market. So they have I mean, they have acquired those softwares, and they have you know. Uh, Whatever the issues or any upgrade, or anything that they find out, whatever the challenges they are facing, right, all these softwares, they have upgraded it to the latest version, that is Microsoft Dynamics 365. So you even because, but these SAP, Oracle, since beginning they are with the same name, but recently from 2018 they named it as a Microsoft Dynamics. So earlier it used to be they have different names. Along with this Microsoft Dynamics 365, they do have Business Central, because whenever you search for any information with regards to this software, right, you might come across there from the Microsoft itself. and they do have great plantain, or there are few other softwares from Microsoft itself. But here they are promoting this Business Central as well as Dynamics 365. Here we will be discussing about the Microsoft Dynamics 365. And before getting into this Microsoft D365, so let me try to make you understand what will be our role here, and what is the content that we are going to discuss further. See, as I mentioned, any organization, if they want to record their transaction, they will be having multiple departments also, like accounts receivable, accounts payable, or GL, taxation, or fixed assets related. But even in the, even to record these transactions, they should have a proper setup. For example, you see these softwares, they will provide a raw software. It's like they will just give an outline of the as a demo version, or I mean there are a few other terms we will call it as like UAT or SIT, sandbox, and then production environment. Before getting into that, uh, so I mean terminology will, I'll just make you to understand it in a simple language. uh, for example, let's take one company. So there is this Reliance company. Assume that they are currently they are using any SAP or Oracle, or just for namesake understand that they are recording their transactions in their internal software, but they are finding it very difficult to record the transactions, or whatever the requirement they are expecting, they don't have all the features in their internal software. So for their purpose, when they they wanted to use this Microsoft Dynamics 365. In their resource, they got to know that Microsoft Dynamics has all the features whatever they are looking for their organization, for even for HR, accounts, sales and marketing. They can even customize as well. So by looking into all these features, they wanted to migrate from their internal software to Dynamics 365. So in order to use this Microsoft Dynamics 365, first thing is they have to purchase the software from the Microsoft. The moment they purchase this software, they should have an implementation partner, or they can hire an consultants, or any for anything it may be. They should have a first the in before, for example, in accounts receivable and accounts payable, there will be let's say like accountants will be there, right? If they want to start using this software to record any of their transactions, first behind before getting started, they should configure, let's say like legal entity, or because first if you remember, you might have already you're using the SAP, right? So currently, uh, if you see, if you just open, if you enter any T code or anything, you should be able to see the company name and whatever the reports, and anything it may be. In the same way, before these end users, we will call these as an end users, right? Like whomever they're recording the transactions, they will call them as an end users. So before these end users start recording their any of these details, there should be proper configuration should be set up. So for their purpose, uh, it's like a demo, I can say. For example, this Reliance will approach Microsoft stating that we wanted to use this Microsoft Dynamics 365. So we want to understand how does this software works, everything. So for that purpose, this Reliance will either let's say for example, Reliance will approach to any Infosys. So once this Reliance approaches to Infosys stating that we wanted to migrate from internal software to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. So what they does is Infosys will have a lot of consultants here. So who are expertise in this Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations, and these consultants, they will have a see. Let me also we'll call we'll call this role as a consultant role, because we are not going to post any transactions for this Reliance. we are going to demonstrate them. Let's say, for example, we know what I mean, what all features are available in the Microsoft Dynamics 365, right? So we will be having a regular, discussions. There will be a requirement gathering will happen. That is the first, or before that, there will be kickoff meetings between the Infosys consultants and the Reliance accounting team. For example, so Reliance will all be already they will be having an accounting team, right? Their account, I mean, their CFOs or any account managers. I mean, there will be a lot of, they will be having an internal team. Since they are not aware about this Dynamics 365, Infosys will have a consultants, right? These consultants, they will explain them. They will, in the initial meetings, they will try to understand. In general, we'll call it as a kick-off meetings here. So in these meetings, these consultants will try to understand what is their requirement and what is the legacy accounting system they are following. Let's say, for example, they are using SAP or any SAP itself. So since you guys are already working in SAP, you can correlate. In SAP, let's say the touch and feel of the software is different from the Microsoft Dynamics, and the options in SAP, for example, if you want to pull any report or if you want to look into any feature or any if you want to perform any activity, you will have to enter the T code. So these are this is how the SAP works. But here in Dynamics 365, it is not like that. You need not to enter any T code or anything. You can directly view all the features which are available. That we can discuss once I start demonstrating the software. So all these things, whatever in these kickoff meetings, these consultants will try to understand what is their business overview. How many departments are there, and what is the process they're following, what is there, because it is, you see, for example, like accounts receivable, accounts payable, the cycle will remain same in any organization. Accounts payable or accounts receivable, the cycle is same, but still they internally they might be having a lot of things to customization, right? It is not necessary that everyone should follow the same pattern of recording their transactions. See, few of them, they might be they for example, Reliance might be into the products in manufacturing industry, or they might be into service industry. So based on like how they will be following different ways of processing invoice, or updating the vendor details. So all this, for example, Reliance will tell that currently we are using SAB, and we are maintaining vendor details with lot of with all the requirements, and along with that we are looking for additional features where we can add to those vendors. So let's say this is a requirement that Reliance has come up, and then these consultants they will be explaining, see, these are the features which are available in Microsoft Dynamics 365. If in case if you want anything else, or if you want to add any new feature, that can be done under unless and until that is approved by the Microsoft. I mean, there are few parameters they have to look into that. If, so here technical consultants and functional consultants both will be a part of this kickoff meetings, or any these migration projects, or any project it may be. So under this consultant, there will be two different types of consultants: functional and technical. So functional, so here functional consultants will be who are expertise in the core subject related. Let's say, for example, in finance and operations, accounting related, journal entries related, there are a lot of things which are related to financial to record the transaction. I mean, any financial aspects. These functional consultants will be the expertise team. And when it comes to the technical, as I mentioned earlier, Reliance has come up with a new requirement, right? See, as an end user, or as a consultant, as a functional consultant, we are aware how to how to explain them to use this software to record to record the accounting transactions. That is relate anything. You see, for example, if Reliance has come up with any requirement, like for example financial reports. If they ask us like how does balance sheet or any P&L works, we as a functional consultants are aware how does it works and how does it helps them, or how they can utilize or how to pull these reports, everything. But let's say we have already demonstrated this is how the report it will looks like once you are in the D365, and then Reliance will say that I don't want this report, or I want something else to be added as a in the same report. That future we cannot do that as a functional consultant, so that is where this technical team will be involved in that. For example, let's say this is a software and this is this is how the report is pulled once in the Dynamics 365. If Reliance says that I want one column to be added here for, or if they want one more row, or if they want to customize or timely reports or anything it may be, that is anything that is related to technical, apart from the standard features. Because any software, initially they will provide the standard features which are most commonly used, and as well as in their research whichever they feel it is beneficial to all the organizations, all these features will be enabled in the the trial version. But since Reliance has like Reliance, in every organization will be having their own requirements. To meet their requirements, this technical team will coordinate with the functional team. So we as a functional consultants, we are aware how to use the standard features or anything. But whenever it comes to technical out of the box features which is very new to that requirement itself, then we will have to coordinate with the technical team and develop that. In case if once the development is done, we will have to test them, because even that is a new future, new functionality even for us as well. We might have not seen that one, or it might be the similar scenario. So in that case, we will have to uh, test initially, and then we'll go to the consultant stating that yes, whatever the future that you have requested, that is doable, and we did that one. Even after testing, also it is working. And then, so this is how the coordination will happen between the functional and technical. So all these discussions will happen one by one. Before getting into these discussions, there is a lot of there's a process over here. As I mentioned initially, there will be having a kickoff meetings, right? So in these kickoff meetings, they will discuss what is their legacy accounting system practices they have been following since, since their operations has begun. And then what are the changes that they're expecting from the Dynamics 365. And we will also try to understand, we'll try to take the inputs whatever whatever that is required from the Reliance side. So in these discussions, we will also try to explain them. In case if something is not available as per their requirement, we'll tell that this is not possible. And in that case, we will take those considerations and we will submit those ideas to the Microsoft. That's a I mean once you start once you getting once you get into any of the projects, then slowly you'll understand. There will be something called as ideas portal, where we will be sharing these are the requirements which customer is expecting, but that is not available in Dynamics 365 in the latest version. If so Microsoft will consider these kind of ideas which they whichever they're getting from all the users. And once if they find out that is feasible and that is helping out to others, they will be having they have a lot of parameters before enabling that feature into the Dynamics 365. So they will take the decision whether that feature is to be added in the Dynamics 365 or not. So that is their internal Microsoft process. But our role here as a functional is to ensure that anything that is related to functional aspect, anything that is related to accounting or finance. See, here finance and operations includes all the modules, like as I mentioned, the crux of any accounting system, it will start with the general ledger. So that is where the legal entity creation, because journal entries, any module or any department, at the end of the day, it has to be dealt with the monetary recordings itself. So in that case, initially it has to start with the general ledger. So once we set up all these the base modules like general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, and then fixed assets, taxation, budgeting, uh, there will, for example, if the company is a Reliance has a some manufacturing business as well. They are into any manufacturing products. So here we do have a certain a few models, like for inventory, costing, logistics, transport. Those will come under operations. I mean, operations, it includes both finance and operation. In the sense, all these what modules will be covered, even supply chain management also. Let's say there are a few e-commerce companies like Amazon, even not only Amazon, even Reliance also. They might be having a number of warehouses to store their products, right? So even these warehouses or any transactions that are those are related to these warehouses also, will be a part of finance itself. But there will be separate, we'll call them as a SCM consultant. Here we are F&O consultants. So there will be a very thin line. You should be, you see, since for example in the warehouse there is a product which Reliance is stored, and whenever it comes to any, once the product is released from the warehouse and it will be sent to the customer, right? So once customer does any payment, then here as a accountant, that transaction needs to be recorded. Since that is linked from SCM to SCM and finance, we should be aware about what, how does it, I mean, how these finance and operations are is linked with the SCM as well. Because all these modules, whatever the modules that are there, right, like finance and operations, supply chain management, inventory, costing, all these are interlinked. But there will be separate, for example, there will be a lot of things which are comes under SCM, like purchase order related or any sales orders. See, initially I mean, whenever it comes to general ledger or any financial transactions, we will be involved in that. But apart from that, there are a lot of things to be maintained. For example, for a vendor, there are a lot of details that they need to capture. Like, there will be a purchase order department will be there, purchase requisition department will be there. So all this will be a part of both finance as well as SCM, because in SCM also, whenever they come across these kind of errors, right? Let's say whenever they're trying to post any sales order or any purchase order, or whenever customer does any payment, all these things, they will contact the function, finance and operation functional consultants. So these all these departments are interlinked here. So this is the job role that we are going to have in once you get into as a consultant role. We will be see there are again will there are different types of process are there, like implementation, testing, and then support. So before getting into okay, so as I mentioned, after these meetings, first we should be able to understand what is, for example, let's say this Reliance company is already using the software. It is Microsoft Dynamics software. Let's say from last 3 4 years already they are using this software. But their implementation or anything, that they might be having an implementation partner, like the way in the previous example I told you, right? They might, Infosys has supported this Reliance to implement or to migrate from their internal software to the Dynamics 365. So post implementation, they need support as well, right? So uh, let me explain that as well. These are different types of projects that you come across once we join as a consultants. One will be implementation. Support. So implementation, as I mentioned, let's say this Lens, they wanted to migrate from SAP or their internal software to Microsoft Dynamics 365, right? since they are very new, so we will be helping them to migrate from whatever the softwares they are using. So there are a lot of steps are involved in implementation, and there are different types of implementation as well. So those will discuss in the next, in the coming classes. And then when it comes to the testing, let's say once they have migrated, or once they have implemented whatever the data that they are having in the in the existing softwares, they will try to flush out the entire data into this Dynamics 365, and then we will have there will be a testing department. See, there are few in few projects, implementation and testing, this will happen simultaneously. But in some if the project, if the company is having a very big project, they will divide these activities, like implementation activities, testing activities. There will be separate department, separate team for the testing and separate team for the implementation. So here testing means like whatever the features they have added as per the customer requirement, along with the standard features, if there are any customizations or any new scenarios, all these things will be tested. So before getting into, because there are end users, right? So before giving the getting into the production environment, all these things needs to be tested here. So for testing, they will be having a multiple environments, like UAT, or we'll call it as a sandbox, SIT, dev. So in these environments, we will try to test whatever the requirements that we have gathered from the Reliance. And then once testing is done, we will be doing the multiple testings, like as per the requirement, like 2 times or 3 times. We will, for example, in the first testing, in case if the future is not working, we'll try to update the reason, and then we'll discuss what is the wrong that happened, what went wrong, and then we'll rectify that one in the second testing. In that way, till that future is working, we'll keep on doing the testing. So once the testing is done, and once successfully, if the feature is working without having any without throwing any error, then it will be post testing all these things, then we'll be going live. Going live in the sense that will be the production environment. So once we start once the Reliance starts using the production environment, so these end users are there, right? As mentioned, like accounts receivable, payable, there will be a lot of accountants will be there. So these end users, they will start posting the transactions. That will be in the production environment. So whenever they come across any issues, let's say they are trying to post any invoice and they are unable to do that, it is throwing an error for them. So immediately what they does is they will raise and support support request here. So the support request, again, it will come to us. So as I mentioned, in case if these are three different types of projects. If you are into the support project, so your role is to rectify, or you'll have to do the research, like what exactly why, I mean, what is the reason behind this error, why they are unable to perform this action. So you will have to research. For example, they're trying to add any vendor details, or they're trying to post any vendor like vendor payment related or anything, but they're unable to do that. It is throwing an error stating that there will be some, for example, uh, there will be certain limits for for each vendor as well, right? So beyond that limit, they should not be able to purchase any, I mean, post any invoice or any purchase order or anything it may be. So end user is not aware that that there is something related to credit limit or anything, because their access or their role is only is to post the transactions, or there will be having a restrictions to use the environment as well. Then we will have to look into all the features or the configurations that are interlinked with that activity, what the end user has raised in the support request. We'll go through the steps. So there are certain uh, the process, there are few process where how to handle the support request. Because uh, for example, they will be have while recording any fixed assets depreciation, or while posting any journal entries, there will be a lot of things they come across, since the software is new to them, or due to technical there are at times they might come across any technical errors as well. Let's say suddenly they are unable to perform any action, or they are unable to post any transactions. It may be due to technical reason as well. So in that case also they might raise this support request. If it is under, again as I mentioned earlier, here even in support also there will be functional and technical. So whenever it comes to functional, we will discuss and see if it is in our aspect, we will give them the resolution. If it is something related to technical, and we have gone through there, we for example we have we have conducted the meeting, or we went on a screen sharing session with the customer, and then we got to know that whatever the requirements or whatever the configuration that is required to perform that action, it is very clear, and there is no problem with the functional aspect. So if there is no problem with the functional aspect, then that definitely that would be technical related, or let it be some any bug or anything. So in that case, technical team will be involved in that. So this is how support projects works here. This is these are few important points that to be noted before getting into the main course, because once you understand what is your role here, and what kind of activities that you are going to do once you get into a consultant role, that is where you can interlink, because there is a lot of difference between the end user and as a consultant. Since end user will not have an scope to learn, or I mean they will not be, they'll have restrictions to see only to that particular department whichever they are working. But since we as an end user, we I mean since we as a consultant, we should be aware about all the modules like ARAPGL, anything, because we will be the front end. We'll have to face the customer whenever it comes to anything that is related to functional aspect. Yeah. So these are few important things that I wanted to make you understand before getting into the main topic. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me here. Hello.
Yeah, nothing from my side.
Clear, bro, till now.
Okay. So if you are clear with this, then we'll stop discussing for today, and then from tomorrow we'll get into the direct. I mean we'll get into the main topics, and then we'll share the course content, everything, and then it will be easy for you.